Hello and welcome back to the Advancing Healthcare Innovation Show. I'm your host, Michael Stamatinos, and if you're new to us, super pumped to have you here. And what we're doing here is we're bringing exciting conversations with leaders that are painstakingly shaping the future of healthcare. And we're just really passionate around access and leadership. And if it's your first time tuning in, let me just sort of take a step back and just give you a little bit more about what we're trying to do here. So we're a healthcare innovation company, and we're focused on bringing real stories of people that are in the trenches to life. And the aim is highlighting them and giving them the opportunity to share their stories, with our community. And we just have an amazing action-packed year. And if you haven't had the opportunity to check out any of our other interviews, make sure you hit the subscribe button because any of the new ones will come to you, but check out some of the older ones. Hopefully you'll get some value from them. And as part of our commitment, just to kind of keep you updated with the latest and greatest in terms of advancements and solutions that are out there, we're bringing innovative leaders and we're having just very rigorously honest conversations with them. So our special guest today is Ethan Davidoff. He's a visionary entrepreneur. He's the founder and CEO of Atlas Health, a company that's stepping up to tackle the complexities of patient care financing. And just a little story, I got a chance to talk with Ethan like 5 years ago, and he was just starting out, and I felt compelled to the story, and I've tracked them, and we finally have had the opportunity of having him come onto the show. So Ethan and his team are pioneering solutions to help patients access the financial support that they need, navigating through the maze of over 20,000 philanthropic medical financing financial aid programs. And Ethan's commitment to this is unwavering as far as ensuring that every individual is deserving of financial aid. They get steered through these complexities. So think about it as their Sherpas that are guiding people through these. So today he joins us to kind of share some of his insights, his extensive experiences, and just showcasing how we can make healthcare accessibility, and affordability and outcomes that really are providing access to care for many of these vulnerable populations. So Ethan, great to see you again. Amazing to have you on the show as a guest today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so let's just take a step back. I always want to just kind of hear from people's origin stories. So your background's really fascinating. What really sort of inspired you to start Atlas Health? Can you kind of maybe talk about the genesis of it, and then we can kind of maybe take it through in terms of where we are today and what you guys have been working on?
So roughly 7 years ago, my wife had an issue with the medical bill. There was an error in the medical bill. My wife had to kind of fight it. And I had thought back to issues that I had with medical bills. I was kind of, guilty before proven innocent with some errors and some, data entry mix up, etc. And so anyways, we had the resources to deal with it and the time to kind of resolve it. But we started to wonder, what does everybody else do? And then around the same time, my wife's friend got cancer, and she went on Facebook to do a GoFundMe campaign. And so I saw that, and I was like, oh my gosh, we were younger than we are now, and you start to think about, wow, people are getting cancer. What's going on here? They can't work. They lose their job. How are they going to pay the bills? They're going on Facebook. They're using GoFundMe, and we thought, this doesn't seem right. This is like the social safety net. So anyway, started to do some research and just got really, really passionate that this was the problem that we wanted to solve. And this seemed like just the right kind of North Star mission that I felt like I could work on this and feel nourished and fulfilled, driving towards impacting as many people, as many lives as possible. And here we are, about 7 years later. So that's a little bit of the background and kind of what got us going.
So think about it from that use case that you described. I think that resonates with a lot of people. Is that, walk us through sort of the primary use case when you're reaching out to some of your customers or potential customers? Talk through what are some of the issues that they're grappling with, and what is it that gets them to kind of have the desire to want to at least converse and entertain this notion and this idea?
Yeah. So there's a few kind of key root challenges that providers have. and even more specifically, hospitals and health systems, when it comes to really helping their patients and serving their communities and extending access and affordability for healthcare. And really the first challenge here is that, at the end of the day, there's only two ways to resolve a healthcare bill. Either the patient pays or somebody else does, right? And we're focusing on the latter because more than 80% of the country doesn't have $5,000, $10,000 stored away for a rainy day in case they get sick. Like, most people in this country are living paycheck to paycheck. This is real stuff. People cannot afford to be sick and have to make horrible choices between, their family and their health and their mortgage, food, and it's horrendous, right? So the first key challenge here in our world of medical financial aid is that there's tens of thousands of programs. A hospital is set up to deliver care, and are they ready to track over 20,000 programs? And they're all different with different eligibility, different applications, different processes to claim awards. It's a lot to maintain. I think the second kind of root issue is just one of efficiency and the realities of labor and the cost to actually help a patient and enroll them and secure an award and make it all happen. And what I mean there is there are data silos in place within the hospital and outside of the hospital where, if it's not automated, if there's not enough automation, if you can't get the data and automate and do this efficiently, then you can't scale it. You can't justify it from a just a business reality perspective, right?
Yeah.
So, and then the final kind of reality is that, there's a lot of different types of medical financial aid within this big bucket. And the area that we've really chosen to focus and go very deep is specifically with patients with complex disease that need high cost recurring therapeutics, very expensive treatments and medications, and that overlay with vulnerable populations and the real root issues that our country's facing when it comes to health equity and just fairness across the board, and how all of us should be treated equal, right? When it comes to our healthcare and our right, regardless of our financial situation or race, gender, creed, etc. Right? So when you put these things together, you end up with a very challenging reality that patients are going to slip through the cracks. Some of the financial aid opportunities are going to be missed. This is going to impact outcomes, clinical outcomes. Some people aren't going to make it that should have made it or had a better quality of life. And finally, you're not really doing your part to truly advance health equity in this country. And so we have built basically a technology platform that accomplishes just that, right? It's proactive, and I'll pause there because you asked about the
my thinking around this is, who owns this? Is this something that the consumer can own? Because I'm thinking about, from a consumerization standpoint, healthcare consumers are getting a little bit more adept at this. But even the ones that are adept, it sounds like the hoops that one would have to jump through just to place themselves in a position to be able to get the reward of this funding. Because it sounds like what you're saying is that there's funding out there. Granted, it might not be unlimited, but there are funding mechanisms that are out there, and it's like really difficult to get access to. Is that done by design? Like, that's just baffling to me.
Yeah, so it's a very, very interesting dimension to this. The reality is, it may not be that hard to go on Google and find a program that's something that's out there. But when it actually comes down to the application process, getting an enrollment, working with your insurance company, if you have insurance, working with the provider, there's a ton of hoops to jump through. You need the doctor's signature at times. You need clinical information out of the EHR, like diagnosis codes and medication dose frequency. You need a lot of data that's not easily at your fingertips as a consumer to actually go through this process. It's not easy. And so this is one of the reasons why we decided to really focus on hospitals and health systems, because we saw that this technology could power their financial aid departments and turn their financial aid departments from just an internal giveaway, cost center, to an opportunity to actually help more patients and take advantage of outside funding sources in addition to managing their own, and turn it into a strategic opportunity to fulfill their mission and make a real dent on these, this kind of highest level dimensions that's facing our country and our healthcare ecosystem.
So you've been at this for 7 years. So this has been quite some time. You're pounding away at this. What have been some of the forces that have changed, that have led kind of these wins to kind of be in your favor? Can you maybe talk about some of those external forces?
What I would say is that I think it's one of the things I've learned, or my kind of personal tenets. It's important to be very stubborn about your vision, but to be very flexible about how you get there. And over such a long journey, or maybe it's just early days and we're just getting started, but over the journey thus far, the things change. The macro factors change. The regulatory environments change. The reimbursement schemes change. The pricing on procedures and medications change. The insurance changes. The needs of the market, the needs of the patients. All these factors are kind of changing over time. And so part of I think why we've been, successful to date and are optimistic about our future and the impact that we're going to continue to scale is really a function of a lot of confidence in our vision and stubbornness in our vision of what it should be, and a lot of clarity around our strategy and how we're going to get there, and how we have the operational excellence to execute against that plan and have the right rhythms to measure and tweak and tune and reevaluate and shift as needed. And then finally, it's our team. It's our team's ability to execute. And, this is all about people, not just the people that we're helping, the patients and their families, or the customers and helping them achieve their mission of helping their patients and families, as well as other business objectives they may have. But it's also about us building the right culture and attracting the right people that want to join us on this journey to spend their time building something that's bigger than themselves. And it's infectious with our colleagues, with our partners, our investors, distribution partners. And I think every business has its ups and downs, its hard days, its good days. But knowing what you're doing is truly a noble cause, and you see that you are making a difference and at times saving somebody's life, and they are thanking you, in tears, that you saved their life, it just makes it worth it. I mean, what else would I rather be doing? I don't know. It'd be hard to think of something.
Yeah, how close are you all in terms of the feedback from the patients? You mentioned about saving someone's life. How can you share those stories without breaching HIPAA and things of that nature? What do you guys do to really sort of share some of those little wins? Because to me, those are the little nuggets that keep you going, especially when the days are long and you're not winning all the time.
We have at least one story being shared by an advocate of somebody they helped in that month. We don't share any details about HIPAA data or any EHR data. What's it called? So we're very careful, and you have to be. But we hear the stories. And I think one of the exciting things we're looking to do more of in the future is find the right compliant way to share more of those stories with the market and with the country.
To me that tugs on the heartstrings of emotion, because I don't know anyone that hasn't gone through some form of a health hardship, or a family member that has gone through a health hardship, that wouldn't be encouraged to see that something like this is available. You mentioned something earlier around execution. It seems like the best innovators are the best executors. And when you're working with clients and customers, how have you found a way to really reduce the friction, meaning the friction from the solution and the endpoint that you know that the outcome that you can deliver, and all the little roadblocks and the noise in there? What does that recipe look like, and how have you tinkered with it over the course of the last couple of years to kind of get to where you're at now? Obviously, it might not necessarily be perfect, but it's certainly working if you're garnering this amount of attention in the marketplace.
It's a good question. I think you got to start by really understanding your customers in the market deeply, and specifically what are the limiting factors or the gating factors that you can't control that constrain the entire market from efficiency. I'll share an example.
Yeah.
Hospitals and health systems have IT resource constraints. They have only so many engineers and IT professionals on their end that can do only so many EHR data integrations with a strategic partner like Atlas every year, right? And so when you start to understand some of these facts, these core macro realities, if you will, you can start to be strategic in terms of how you devise your tactics and your plans, right? So to finish this example, in the very early days, we took the approach of speed. We want to accelerate the sale, the time to value, and we found a way to automate the work, the IT work of the health system, for them to pull all of the data out of their EHR without it becoming an IT project for the health system. We were able to kind of give them code that they could run and get it to us quickly. Skip the line. We were able to get in, demonstrate value, go off to the races, scale. Now, the other side of this example is that was maybe a key strategy in the early days when we're getting in, and we're focused on, let's say, maybe more focused on logos and sales. And then after, let's say, one of our most recent funding round, our primary strategy shifted to much deeper investments in technology and product innovation and defensibility and moats. And our focus shifted from not just chasing logos and revenue at all costs, but going deeper with the right set of customers to co-develop the right set of innovation that would really solve the problem in a much more dramatic fashion, help many more patients much faster, and create a much more defensible and long-lasting business.
And do you find... Sorry, go ahead. Finish your thought.
And in that shift, suddenly the strategy of here's some code to get us most of the data we need is not the right strategy. It's let's really take our time and do a formal IT project, and let's do the hard work to compete against 100, 200 other projects that are coming in to that organization, and why Atlas should be, in the top 5 and happen this year.
It's fascinating, because when you mention about some of the constraints, a lot of the times the constraints are out of your control. You mentioned IT resources. I mean, you guys can go 100 miles an hour, but the potential partners that you're talking about might not necessarily have that capacity. what have you found that has worked to bump a project from being number 150 to being a top five? Has it been what you've described, which is, I'll call it more of the emotional heartstrings? Like what has worked? Because when you're talking to senior leaders, maybe that are maybe more clinical focused, there's a talk track that you're using with them, but maybe someone who's IT, who's a little bit more focused on the tech. Are these different narratives that you're using for different audiences? And to the extent that you're able to share, I'm just curious because this is a really big problem with many emerging companies. It's a huge blocker.
Yeah, it's a multi-dimensional approach. So one of a big one is the value prop, is the ROI. So in addition to the mission and the heartstrings and why we're all in healthcare, in the first place, is the reality that all of us are running businesses. We're all operators running a P&L, revenue, margin, etc. And so demonstrating a clear and compelling and accurate ROI that is, irrefutable, undisputable, and getting it in front of the right set of stakeholders is critical. And we found a way to do that. And that's definitely a big part of how we make our go-to-market motion really comes alive and translates into business results for us and our customers.
And you talk about going deeper with the right partners. What are some of the pivotal things, some of the non-negotiables that you say that you kind of have decided, like, hey, this is what we need in a non-negotiable in terms of like the right ideal partner? What does that look like to you in that level of stubbornness to stay to it?
No, it's a great question. I mean, it starts with that shared vision, shared thesis, big thinking, something bold, something that transcends a 1-year P&L, a 2-year P&L, and getting that buy-in. And then after that, it does become a little bit more operational in terms of what resources are needed on each side, who's going to do what are the guardrails, what are the rules. And I think building a lot of trust, leading with transparency and thoughtfulness and partnership, true partnership. It is a lot of, co-development type activities that are required in this market for true innovation. And it makes sense. It has to be that way. The data, the privacy, this is a highly regulated environment, as it should be. The stakes couldn't be higher, right? So, it's not just life or death for the patients, it's life and death for people's careers. It's life and death for the penalties of making a bad mistake. And so I think it's pretty serious, it's pretty intense. And I look at, these relationships, hopefully as lifelong relationships that transcend, Atlas capabilities.
And as you go deeper with these clients and these partners, where else do you think you could make impact? You sort of being a visionary and thinking, out there. I'm just sort of curious, what do you see beyond the curve in terms of what Atlas Health's capabilities could extend to?
It's a great question. I think being very objective, right, about where we are today and where we're headed and what that means for the market and hospitals and health systems in particular, we're very mission oriented, which you can tell. And we're also very ROI driven. That ROI has a lot of dimensions under it itself. The obvious ones are always going to be, revenue, cash, top line, profitability, margin, efficiency, right? And I think we've done a very good job focusing in that area. It's very no nonsense, right? And when it really boils down to it, I think that we're at a very interesting moment in time when it comes to truly improving outcomes, advancing health equity, driving patient experience, the healthcare staff experience, driving reputation. Like, I think these other things that have been harder to get to a very defensible, quantifiable ROI, I think those sands are starting to shift. I think there's enough that's happening from CMS and the Joint Commission. I think I see pockets and cohorts where there are material investments and strategic priorities that transcend these traditional kind of business ROI P&L priorities. And I think that we're off to a good start, but it's early days, and there's much more that we're going to do, that we will do with our health system partners and with other innovative mission-driven technology emerging platforms. So I think this is really the key themes of the next decade. And I think that there's a lot of us, working on it. And I'm cautiously optimistic and excited to see how this plays out and the impact that we have as a whole, over this time period.
So let's just say, we fast forward a year from now, we're chilling, we're hanging out, we're talking, you're looking back, you as a visionary, what would make you feel, what would really satisfy your soul to know that you and the team have accomplished? What does that look like?
On a personal note, I don't think I'm ever going to be satisfied until the problem doesn't exist, and companies like Atlas don't even need to exist. From a business perspective, we have our goals, and it's all around scaling the impact, the number of patients we help, the traditional fundamental metrics like revenue and margin, etc. But if I had to pick one to share, I guess I would say that when people think about financial aid, financial assistance, patient assistance, philanthropic aid, when they think of these terms in the healthcare ecosystem and hospitals and health systems, that they think about Atlas as synonymous. That, the work we're doing together with our strategic partners, our health system and hospital partners, that we really collectively make the difference, and we've scaled the impact big enough across the country where everybody knows about it, and we're associated with those feelings of hope, of really helping people and making a difference.
Amazing. So I know we're kind of coming towards the tail end of our time here, but just kind of give a commercial, or share a little bit about how people can follow your work, the work of the Atlas team. Yeah, give some plugs if you can.
Yeah, check us out at atlas.health. You can find all the information on our website about what we do, who we are, our vision, our mission, our values. If you're a hospital and health system, we would love to talk with you and share more about how we've helped other hospitals and health systems achieve a variety of objectives, both mission-oriented as well as business. And we'd be happy to connect and get acquainted and see if it's a fit.
Amazing, Ethan. It's really, really cool, I have to say, just to kind of, from our initial conversation a number of years ago, and just sort of following the trajectory and seeing where you're at now. It's very encouraging. I think the mission it's very compelling. And for those that have tuned in and kind of listened into this conversation, if you found it meaningful, if you found it somehow enlightening and you care about this mission, please share it. Spread the love, engage with it, like it, comment. Those are all helpful, especially now. We need more doers, we need more executors, we need more innovators. So I'm looking forward to kind of continuing to keep the lines of communication open, and doors always open. Love to have you come on again and continue to share more stories. And I will definitely be looking to see more of the the patient stories, I'll call them, the patient stories and the success stories of people receiving funding and getting care like that. That's really meaningful work. So I'm looking forward to that.
Thanks for having me, and anytime.
Yeah, my pleasure. All right, we'll see you soon.